Welcome to Bounce Back Stronger, the podcast that explores ways to find peace and purpose no matter what happens. Today, I am honored to have one of my favorite Kripalu leaders, Aruni Futuronsky, back with us. A little about Aruni. Aruni, also known as Coach Aruni, is an author, teacher, facilitator, and mindfulness coach with a career spanning over 5 decades. She brings a wealth of experience and wisdom to the table. Since 1990, Coach Aruni has been a senior faculty member at the renowned Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health, where she delves into the essence of living yoga and yoga off the mat. At the core of Coach Aruni's philosophy lies compassion, gratitude, and humor, as well as her personal journey of recovery, which has been an inspiration to me. Thank you so much for being on the podcast again, Aruni. It's an honor to be with you.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Donna, for asking me.
Yeah, we
So,
just saw each other in January, which was a great weekend, the Inner Quest Intensive that you lead there. And you've been doing that for how long?
since 1995, if anyone could count back that far, I don't quite know how to do that. So that, oh,
It's
I don't,
amazing.
I know that would be 30 years, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's quite a weekend. I think, especially in these times, for me in particular, it was a commitment over inauguration weekend, and I wanted to go somewhere where I felt like I was going to be in a supportive environment and work on myself. I felt that that was something that I needed to do in that time, and it was such a great experience.
It was certainly the perfect weekend to be together, to really come together and build the world we want to live in for those 3 days,
Yeah.
regardless of whatever you believe, whoever you believe in, whatever you stand for, that we're all in it together. And I love programming at Kripalu, even if it's a 90-minute R&R, because it gives us the chance to come together with compassion.
Yeah, and you were really careful to make sure that everybody was welcome, and I think that that's what we want. We want to have an inclusive environment where everybody can bring themselves and find healing. So it was a really wonderful experience.
Everybody is here. So if
Yeah,
everybody's here, we might as well welcome everybody in,
yes.
with guidelines, with boundaries, and then it all works. And that is that program. Let's talk more about that when you're ready.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So maybe let's just start off. This was kind of the main topic that we wanted to talk a little bit about was the struggle that we have being present and then also being informed. I think this is a real betwixt and between because the news, at least for me, tends to make me fly into the future and all the things and the doom scrolling and the difficulties that could happen. But then I have to stay present because in this moment, none of that is there. So maybe let's talk a little bit about how you're navigating it and how best we might navigate this.
Well, it makes me think about practice. I am practicing being informed and I'm practicing staying right here. And I'm doing a okay job depending on the moment. So I have some boundaries. I will not listen to certain voices. I'm not watching moving news. I will scan headlines. I occasionally give myself the okay to read the opening paragraph, and I try to keep it at that. And I try to keep it to once a day, which is
Mm,
very edgy. I find there's an addictive quality to the doom, to the
mhm.
uncertainty, just builds upon itself. And I absolutely agree. We need to be informed. I need to know what's happening. I can't not know, but I can't over know. It cannot take over my day. So I'm practicing that. And sometimes I'm able to live within those boundaries and sometimes not. So for me, practice means noticing how I show up within the boundaries, within the riverbanks, and then being kind to myself. Like, okay, today wasn't the best. Here I am again, obsessed with, focused on something that isn't even real. It's not even real right now. How kind can I be to myself and how can I practice coming back? I just have had to give myself a whole lot of leeway to practice because this is so new. I had a pretty good sense of what was happening and where we were going and the best way we could move forward. And of course, like we say in 12 steps, life on life's terms. and life is happening. And it's not happening the way I might pick it to be happening, but it's incumbent upon me to get with the program and to
Yeah,
practice.
yeah. And it's almost like it was provided to us for practice, right? Because all of these things aren't really as needed, maybe, if everything's going along the way we expect. But when we're hit with these types of huge changes in the world, and we're not just saying that, the stock market's saying that.
The
So,
stock market is saying that.
so I'm not saying anything very controversial, I don't think. I think it does give us this chance to practice and put all these things into place. What are some of the other practices that you suggest? Like one of the things I've been using a lot since the intensive that I did with you is the idea of when you're walking or as you're doing things, the mantra, because
Yes,
my mind goes to these just awful thoughts all the time, just of all the things that could go wrong and et cetera. And again, like you said, they're not here. Maybe talk a little bit about that practice because I thought that was one of my biggest takeaways. I use mantras, but now I'm using them everywhere.
it's
It's like,
fabulous.
yeah.
Well, I love this. This is my main practice in walking normally, regular walking, whether you're in, the supermarket or Walmart or walking down the hall at work, whatever, wherever you walk, whenever you can notice it, repeat a phrase, a positive phrase. Call it a mantra, call it an affirmation, call it whatever fits within your scope of understanding. Everything's okay, everything's okay, everything's okay. All is well, all is well, all is well. And it's a way to kind of lean away from the doom of uncertainty and to kind of anchor ourselves in another way of thinking and to walk in normal gait. We used to teach a slow motion, beautiful, rolling your weight onto your right foot. And that worked great in the program room. Not so good in Walmart. But this is a very subversive way of praying. One could walk through Walmart and be like a little beacon of prayer. And to let the mantra come and go, let it change. Could be the Beatles. What was I doing the other day? All you need is love. 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 It could be a line of a song. It can be a phrase. Doesn't have to be a foreign language. It's a really remarkable practice of being present in the moment and leaning toward a more positive outlook or a more positive, like a tethering, like a way to
Mm.
tether back.
Yeah, I have found it really, really helpful and I highly recommend it. And like you said, you can find whatever it is that works for you and that you can remember, but it really has been a good practice for me.
And not to work too hard at it. It's not like
Right.
a thinking thing. Like let it come, let it go. They're fluid. And I find when I'm doing it outside, usually when I'm walking Nick, or perhaps when Nick, my dog, is walking me, if we could be more accurate about that, like who's on the leash here, finding that the world around me is so much more beautiful. Like it's such an internal practice, but it really shows me the beauty around me. And I love that. I don't want to miss that. I don't want to lose the light coming over the mountain. I don't want to miss the sunset. It's too spectacular an earth we've been given. So I find that really helpful.
Yeah, and interesting when I'm thinking of the dog. My dog is 9 and he probably only has, 4 years or so left. And it has been an important practice for me to go, I don't want 4 years to go by really fast. I don't want that. I want to spend every moment and have every moment. So, things like that I think can help kind of give you a little bit of perspective in this
Definitely. And
time.
like that tethering back, like what's
Yeah.
important, right
What's
here, right now. What's important right here, right now. And
yeah.
I find so much of it for me ends up in kindness
Yeah.
because I've been cranky, like this cranky old lady that I am has kind of emerged. It's as if my emotional container is so brittle from, well, everything. But
Yeah.
I could hold it out there, but then I come home and I've been having little explosions at home and I don't want that. Not
Hmm.
that that's a bad part of me because I believe there are no bad parts, but it's not a part that I want to have that as the way I communicate with my spouse.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I've been practicing just containing and noticing and kind of being kind to myself about it. Like we're
Yeah.
living, I believe we're meant to be here now. I believe that it's not an accident, that we are walking around witnessing, bearing witness, not here to change, not here to wave a wand, if only we could, but to bear witness and to be kind. That's what it comes down to for me these days.
And you mentioned in a recent blog, and folks, she has this wonderful, you have this wonderful newsletter every week on Sundays without fail. And a couple weeks ago, you mentioned a word that you never mentioned before. And I would love to hear about that for a couple reasons, but go ahead. I'd like
So
to,
the G word, the G
the
word,
G word, the
the
G
G word.
word.
What was the title? I thought the title was funny. Here's a word I never mentioned before in all of my blogs, something like that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the word is God. I don't want to say a word that's going to exclude other people from finding a seat for themselves in that conversation.
Yep.
So that's why I'll say like spirit or like find a
Hmm.
word or, but it was kind of powerful for me to write about it. It was different. It was
Hmm.
different. I don't know if I felt like I was revealing more because I feel like that's not a problem for me. That's not, I don't have a containment there. But it was very empowering to write about it. I got some interesting feedback. People were like, yay, thanks, or well, I call it, like whatever you call it. I don't care what anybody calls anything except what works for you. I believe there's something greater than myself running the show. I believe the beauty of this universe is divine and it's outside of us, it's inside of us. It's all true. And like everybody could just find their seat in this conversation or not.
Or examine why they have an issue with it. I think that for me, I realized that I kind of wanted to write a blog at that same time. So there was something in, whether anybody believes in it or not, there was something astrological about divinity at that time, which was
Yes.
interesting. And I had a similar experience where I wanted to write something around the line of I want my God back. So I did write a little poem around that time and kind of like that, like, when did I give it up? Why did I give it up? And it was really empowering for me to kind of come back to it and say, I believe in, what I wrote in one of my books. I mean, I believe in love, and where religion embraces love, that's what I believe in. But I always believed in God, but it gets so compartmentalized. It gets so touchy with everybody in exactly how you believe. I had a woman that said, do you believe? And I said, I believe in love, and that's what really
Mhm.
matters. And
That's
she
what really
just turned
matters.
off immediately, right? So it's really a tough conversation to
It's a
have.
tough conversation. I remember years ago at Kripalu, I created a new workshop for retreat and renewal, which is our 90 minutes of daily sessions. And I called it the yoga of faith, the F
Hmm.
word. I used the F word. And I was very excited and happy about it. Do you know, like 3 people came? Like
That's
people
right.
did not come. So I
Yeah.
talked to my boss and he was like, well, what do you think? So we renamed it the yoga of life. And, I had full grown. Same workshop, didn't change anything but that word in the
Yeah.
title. So
Yeah.
it's funny what we push away.
And it's so powerful now to be able to surrender in that way to a higher power, however you choose to name it, is really helpful right now.
Fighting against what's happening
Yeah.
is really painful. It's like being in that little canoe and paddling against the current, and the current's going really, really fast. It's going really fast in the opposite direction of where
Yeah.
I thought we were going. And so to to surrender to it doesn't mean you have to like it.
Mm-mm.
That took me a while in my life to figure out. And I still have to keep reminding myself I could
Yeah.
not like it and still relax around it. It's like yoga, fighting against the sensations in the body creates more tension. Fighting against the tension makes more tension. Softening around the inevitability of tension, it comes and goes more easily. So that's the on the mat version. Off the mat, surrendering into what's happening, it makes us more effective.
It
And then, of
does.
course, taking action. This is surrender does not exclude action. It
That's right.
just it's really incumbent upon us to let go of the outcome of our actions.
Yes,
That's the
which is
tricky
really
part.
hard. That's
That's the
really
tricky
hard.
part. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, one of my family members is doing some work around homelessness, and we're trying to work with a city council around that. And it's really hard because she's coming up against this body that basically wants to make homelessness criminal,
Mm.
and with no backstop, with no resources to handle it if it happens. And it's just a real challenge because you want to be loving and you want to be caring about the people that you're facing, but it's really difficult to face it and with that loving personality because you're coming up against something that's so foreign in some ways to us, I guess.
It's so hard to understand. Like,
Yeah.
so you're homeless, so that's a crime. Like, if you had a choice, would you be homeless?
Yeah.
Probably not, I would imagine.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
It is.
But what I believe is hatred is the problem,
Yeah.
anger is the problem. It can't be the solution. And I don't know how to do that either. I know I'm practicing. Just like can I drive down my little road and not be a jerk? Can I go
Yes.
to the supermarket and not be on a hunting and gathering survival mission? Can I just go slower? For me, slowing down is really important.
Yeah.
When
It
when
shows a
I
lot, doesn't it?
yes, when I get scared, I speed up. And when I speed up, I get more anxious. It begets more anxiety is all.
And it's helpful for me to notice when I'm moving fast and then when I'm moving slower. So if I'm moving slower, I go, what did I do today that made this easier? And usually it's exercise or I did yoga or whatever it is, but I kind of try to like connect it. This is what I
It's really
did
cool.
today. And now I'm slower. Doesn't mean I always do it. But when I'm moving
Yeah.
really fast, I know that it's anxiety for sure.
Yeah, that's totally anxiety. And there's plenty to be anxious about. This is not to deny our feelings. This
No,
is to
no, no,
find
no.
this is the long run. This is not a sprint.
No, and
This is a
it's the
marathon.
and it's the unnoticed feelings, right? I think for me, it's like, okay, why am I doing that? Oh, then I have to go back and go, okay, that's what's happening inside.
Right. Right.
And then I can go, oh, I can deal with that. I can figure that out. I can practice
That's
that.
really that's really good, Donna. That's really good. I like that. Like, okay, when I get anxious, it's anticipatory. It's never really anything happening in the moment. Because in
Yeah.
the moment, I kind of have found ways to kind of be there. It's thinking about what isn't happening and making that current. That for me is the slippery slope these days. If anyone could identify with that,
Hmm.
like I bet we can identify with that
We can definitely identify with
because
that.
so much uncertainty, the uncertainty of what's happening is just so crazy. Here comes a little
Nicole,
dog.
let me see. And she's,
Okay, Nikki, come here. Nikki, come sit down. Come on. Come on. Come sit down. She looks a little less attractive because her whiskers are all messed up with medication. This
oh,
is Nick.
oh
This is
my
Nikki.
gosh, how beautiful you are. Oh, did
She's
you
a
have a
little
tough
pain
week?
in the butt. She's very brave. She's
Oh,
very brave. And they said everybody there loved her. But I
of
think they tell
course.
that to all the dogs.
I'm sure not. I'm
I'm
sure
just
not.
saying,
I'm sure sometimes they get animals that they can't lie about it.
get this dog out of here.
So maybe let's talk a little bit about the Inner Quest Intensive. There's
Sure.
so many parts to that that you kind of slam into a very short window, but it's really
What do you mean?
powerful.
What do you mean by parts? Like activities?
Yeah, activities, but my sense is you're trying to get to different things. Over 30 years, you've come up with a really amazing way to have people break open and heal and then have purpose with what they've learned. That's probably not the best summary, but it's what at least what happened to me. So,
Is so interesting, so fabulous. Well, I inherited the program in 1995. It was the first Kripalu program ever taught. So it's the original program. So I've inherited a really solid base of core content and experiences. And over the years, I've brought myself to it and, sort of injected my sort of 12-step perspective, which is a big part of how I see the world, thank goodness. So I think the core teaching is really the practice of being present in the moment. And Swami Kripalu's core teaching of self-observation without judgment is the highest spiritual practice. So I don't think there's a lot of teaching in the program. I think there's a couple of pieces here and let's practice. And then we do movement and we do breath work and we do journaling and we do small groups and dyads. And we use a lot of mindful communication to be able to see another person, sit with another person and be there for them without having to talk, without having to fix them, without having to do anything, but to be the witness. And I think a lot happens in what we call the dyad. And we do movement and we do all kinds of things. And I think it's really fun. I hope you had fun.
I had a blast. I had a
Yeah,
blast.
it's not like this like drudgery, there's not like intensity. It's really kind of fun.
It's a little like going to a summer camp,
It's fabulous.
but it's like an inner child or like an inner discovery summer camp of sorts. I think that's how I would put it.
Oh,
But
go
I think
ahead.
you bring in some great tools like the silent meditation part, like where we didn't speak to each other outside of
Right.
the container of the room, which I think was really helpful. And also the listening. I think that many people don't actually get listened to. They actually don't listen, and they also don't get the chance to speak without being interrupted.
Absolutely believe that. I believe that all we really want is to be seen and heard,
Yeah.
like deeply, just to be received and not, I don't know, like changed. We have to be, nobody's here to change anybody. We heal by being present with what is, with ourselves and one another. And I think as
Yeah.
we dare to touch into our own suffering and let other people see it, everybody wins. That's like
Yeah.
the individual healing and then the collective freedom and liberation.
And feeling it coming up. I think that there's some opportunities there in those sessions to share things that you might not usually share because there's no judgment coming from the other side.
Exactly.
And that release can be incredibly helpful in managing what you're going through in the present. I found that really helpful. And I've done these things, right? I'm done, all these different trainings over the time, but I think I could go back again. Like I could, I could take the whole thing again because I think you're always kind of changing and your life is changing and you're going to
Without a
it's going to be
doubt.
completely different, I think.
Without a doubt, every single time that I teach, whether it's the 90-minute R&R or the Inner Quest or a couple of other programs I teach, it's different.
Hmm.
It's like, it's different. Maybe my jokes are the same. I'm afraid my jokes might be the same. Maybe my little like vignettes are the same, but everything is like I'm aware of being touched by it. I remember my mentor when I was learning the Kripalu way of teaching experientially, because when I came to Kripalu in 1989, I had taught for almost 20 years in an inner city high school.
Wow.
So I was a teacher, but not experientially, I
Yeah.
was not doing that. So my mentor said, we just want people to talk. We just want people to talk. I remember once I was teaching with her actually, and people were talking, like they're talking. They're not supposed to be talking. She's like, we want people to talk to one another. Isn't that the missing piece? So it's that I love the mindful communication. I think it has a huge value.
Hmm. Yeah, and those skills that you teach people, they take them into their lives. And
I hope
that's a
so. I
gift
think so.
too. Yeah.
And mindful communication for both the listener and the speaker, like each role has so many benefits.
Yeah.
Just to be able to listen and not have to do anything is such freedom and such an invitation into a level of intimacy that I never knew. Like I think it's the most intimate and delicious thing to just sit with someone and receive their world and just be that witness and be that angel, whatever the word might be, again, whatever you could use for that phrase. I really do believe that. And then for the speaker to speak without feedback is another kind of freedom that we don't get in our lives.
Mm. No, we don't. We don't. And you have two more of these coming up this
I
year.
do. I do. I have the dates. Actually, shall I say them now?
Yeah. And then I'll put that in the show notes too.
Great. And the first is in the month of June, and it's a Thursday through Sunday program, and it runs from the 26th and the 29th of June. And then the second for 2025 is Friday through Monday, and that's October 17th through the 20th, Friday through Monday. That's some holiday weekend. which
Yes.
helps people get there.
Highly recommend.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, so we're coming to the end of our time. What didn't I ask, or what would you want to share before we close?
A great question. The practice of self-observation without judgment is
Mm,
such a precious one.
mhm,
To begin to be our own best friend, to become intimate with ourselves, not as the, I'm going to get it right, I'm going to do it differently, or I want to be spiritual, let me do this. Just to notice what comes up and to offer ourselves some level of kindness, some level of it's okay, or just not kick
mm,
the crap out of ourselves. Let's start there. I think that's a
mhm.
huge, 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 huge gift. And I think if not now, when? Because many of us, not all of us, many of us are triggered. Many of us are scared. My blog this weekend was about rest, and I got an email from someone who said, yeah, I'm terrified and exhausted over here. So if ever there were a time to kind of befriend ourselves and give ourselves permission to practice being here, that's one thing. And the second thing is, I absolutely believe that we're meant to be here, that if
Mm.
we're here now, we're here to witness, to bear witness. And somehow that makes me feel different. It makes me feel a little better. I'm just such a child of the 60s. I'm such a peace, flowers, freedom, happiness. If everybody's kind to everybody,
Mhm.
then we could make this world as wonderful as it deserves to be. And that doesn't seem worldwide in this moment to be the direction. And okay, so how do we take everything we've learned and practice being kind to ourselves and one another? Maybe I could keep it that simple. So I would say kindness to ourselves and self-observation. And here we are now. What is life giving me today? What are the gifts that I'm receiving today? What are the blessings? I must see the blessings. I can't lose sight of all the gifts I've been given.
So good. So, so good. Well, thank you. That was a perfect way to end our time together. I really appreciate you being on the podcast and all you do and those weekly newsletters that just brighten my Sundays. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Anytime. I would do this anytime. I mean, I love talking with you. It's really fun to
Yeah,
talk to you.
I will have
So
you back.
thank
Absolutely.
you.
I'll have
Thank
you
you. Thank
back.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's all for today. If you want to learn more about the Inner Quest Intensive and Aruni's other retreats and books, those links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. If it was, please subscribe, drop a review, or share it with your friends and family. That's the best way to get it in the hands of those who may benefit. And if my daughters Sienna and Sylvia are listening, I want you to know how proud I am of you, and I love you so, so much. Bye now.